It's the internet. You're busy. Let's do this for November 2nd, 2022. I promise I will get rid of the pumpkins next time. For the next hour or so, let me help you sort through the world of gaming on Game Mess Mornings Live with me, Jeff Grubb. Today, I hope you have a lot of money because the PSVR2 finally got its price reveal. But first, please join me in welcoming today's co-host to Game Mess Mornings. It's Lucy James from Giant Bomb, everybody. Lucy, how are you doing?
Sorry, I can't hear you. I'm in the metaverse in VR. I paid for it. No, I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's been yesterday I was so tired, and then I kind of caught up a little bit. But I'm feeling pretty good. It was kind of a relaxed morning. I watched Andor. That was nice.
Andor what?
And, there it is. There it is. Got me again.
God, sorry.
No, of course you got to do it. And boy, that movie or that show is really just it puts you in a mood. It is very tough stuff right now.
Oh, really? I haven't watched a single episode.
If you start it, everyone says it starts slow. It is just putting money into the bank that it cashes out later so hard. By episode 6, that's definitely true, but now I'm like, it's episode 9, and it is, I'm flabbergasted every episode now because it's just so oppressive. There is, you watch the Star Wars movies, and you're like, oh, they got to fight against the Empire because empires are bad. And they show that by like, they blow up a planet, and that's okay. That's visceral, and I get that. This is but like where'd the rebellion come from before that? They've had a lot of chances to explain that. This is the first time I feel like they've really shown, oh, you've got to do something about the Empire. They are truly bad and oppressive, and you could feel where people are coming from. Finally, it's really good stuff. How have you been? Like, you've been having I know you're busy as always, but you've been able to like do anything fun? You hanging out? You doing any cool stuff?
I went to my friends for Halloween the weekend. Good. I don't play through God of War. Honestly, I'm trying to get it finished, and then I was talking to Skill Up yesterday, and he has finished, and I was telling him, I was like, I think I'm getting there. And I told him the point where I was at, and he went, yeah, you're just over halfway.
Oh, like, wow.
But it's I can't wait to talk more about that game. And I'm also watching Bad Sisters. Have you seen Bad Sisters?
I've
on
not.
Apple TV?
No, I've heard people really enjoy it. I think that's what at least a couple of times I've heard that.
Very, very good show.
Okay, good.
It is Sharon Horgan, and so it's a bunch of Irish sisters, and one of them is married to a complete piece of shit. Like, genuinely, it makes me hate a character more in a minute than I've ever felt hatred for before. And then it's the insurance company doesn't want to pay out, and it's like the insurance company trying to investigate, the sisters trying to all be there for each other. It's very funny, very cutting, and I love it. And someone said, "Who has Apple TV?" Me, because I got a new phone.
Oh yeah, that's right. It just comes with it, right? Yeah, Apple
comes
TV's got a lot of good shows right now. Apple
TV has all of my favorite shows of the year on it, like Severance, Blackbird, Bad Sisters.
I haven't watched Severance. I last night I was going. I don't know what I was looking at. Must have been an ad for Severance or something, or maybe it was a reference on some site I was reading. But it was just. And I understand the premise of the show. So I read this thing that's like, remember, if you find yourself back here, you chose to come back to work or whatever. I'm like, oh yeah, that is really getting to me. And that I'm like, okay, yeah, I definitely have to watch this show now because I don't know, something about that really struck a chord. If you like shows with really terrible spouses, also Andor has got the most shitty husband. And actually, that tweet about like, what if your kid has bad vibes? They have that kid too. The show's got everything. It's got everything, everybody. All right, let's do this show. Before we get into the mess, though, let's explain what we do here. Each weekday, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you are watching live on Twitch, hello Twitch. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings or find the RSS on giantbomb.com. You can also catch the show later with chapters and timestamps on YouTube. Hello YouTube. Okay, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the morning mess with the PlayStation VR2 is $550 US. We'll get into some of the details from the blog post. Like, what's that price due to you when you hear that?
Did you not see my visceral reaction?
Yes, that's yes, that's how I kind of feel. I mean, listen, I think every time we've talked about the PSVR2 so far, we have asked this question. How much do you think it's going to cost? Because we knew this was a possibility. I think the last time we had a conversation about it, I think I think we even did a poll. I think most of the people fell into the somewhere between $500 and $600. And so I don't think this is going to be, too surprising to too many people. And yet that is still a big number.
Yeah, I'm coming at it that like I paid $250 for my Oculus can't call it that anymore. Meta Quest 2, right? Not a few months ago. And I loved it for a long time. I played a lot of Beat Saber, and then I've put it down.
Yeah.
You can actually see it behind me being held by Winston from Overwatch.
Mm-hmm. There it is.
Not to be touched for a long time. And, you know, and the reason for that is, like, I just played the one game on it. Like, I wanted to get Resident Evil 4. And then I ended up, like, not, because a bunch of stuff started coming out. And I was like, that's an expensive piece of hardware for me not to play with.
Yeah.
And, you know, for PSVR2, VR has yet to have that wow moment for me, I think. And,
sure.
You know, for cards on the table, I have not played Half-Life Alyx yet, which everyone says is the big wow moment. And, like, I guess now that I have a PC that's good enough, I can plug it in and try that. Also, you'll kind of notice that I'm speaking a little slower today because my voice is a little choppy, a little painful.
We'll take it easy on you. Absolutely. We'll let you.
I've got some oat milk coffee ready for me.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, $550. That's more expensive than the PlayStation 5.
Yes.
And I think we'll get onto this, but like the games, what are we working with here?
So let's go through these details because that is definitely the other side of this that I want to talk about. So thanks for setting that up. Here is from the blog post. Over the past several months, we've introduced the PlayStation VR2 and provided glimpses into the next generation of virtual reality gaming, which will allow you to escape into new worlds while feeling a groundbreaking sense of immersion. Today, I'm very pleased to announce that PlayStation VR2 is officially launching on February 22nd, 2023. PlayStation VR2 Sense controller's charging station designed specifically for the PSVR2 Sense controller will also launch the same day. Now, when it comes to price, we already said $550. That is going to be 600 euros, which I know the dollar is up right now, but it's wild to see something cost that much more in euros.
Oh, no, I'm looking at the pounds right now.
And in pounds,
holy shit.
530 pounds. And the pound is actually still worth a little bit more than the dollar. So that
I remember when it was $2 for the pound.
Yes.
So this is really quite
right. And this is them operating. Okay. I mean, the dollar's up right now. I don't think it's going to stay up like this forever.
Oh, no.
So this is essentially a built-in long-term price increase, even though, you know, they're introducing the thing. It's like, well, we can get away with charging this much now because people understand the conversion rates and all that. Eventually, though, I mean, I don't know, it's a lot of money. And then yen, honestly, this one's even more surprising. 74,980 yen. That, I mean, I remember when 100 yen was $1. So
yes.
When I do my conversion in my head, $750. Obviously, yen way down right now. It's not the same, but still, that's what I do in my head. It's like that is a stunning number for that. And for that price, you're going to get the PSVR2 and the PSVR2 Sense controllers. And that's kind of when we were talking about the price, and people were saying it's probably not going to be more than 400. It's going to be 400. I'm like, well, you have to keep in mind these new controllers. They're including those with every system. So that's going to put the price up there, at least 500. And well, that's where we ended up at. You can get a bundle for an extra $50 with Horizon Call of the Mountain. That includes a game. And then that Sense controller charging station is $50 extra. Now, when it does come to the games, they, as part of the blog post today, they pointed to another blog post where they announced 11 new PSVR2 games. And,
all right.
Okay, yeah, that's a good number for launching a new platform, whatever. Nothing super stands out. I suppose the most standout of these games is a Rush of Blood sequel, the Dark Pictures Switchback VR, which looks cool. That's the top one on their blog post. I think that's probably the biggest one for most people, as long as you're into those kinds of games. Then they have Cities VR Enhanced, Crossfire, Sierra Squad, The Light Brigade, Cosmonious High, Hello Neighbors Search and Rescue, Jurassic World Aftermath Collection, Pistol Whip VR, Zenith The Last City, After the Fall, and Tentacular. those join other previously announced games like No Man's Sky, Demio, Resident Evil Village, things along those lines. But a lot of these are ports from other platforms. Some of them are new, but then some of them are games that were previously on PSVR, and now you'll get a free upgrade to at least 2 of the 3 that were on previously on PSVR. I think that's Pistol Whip and Zenith. After the Fall didn't mention a free upgrade to PSVR2 from PSVR. I bet that they might actually still end up doing that, even though they haven't explicitly said so. I don't know. I'm just not excited about this lineup. I don't know. What do you think, Lucy?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really excited about it. The only things in there, I mean, obviously, Resident Evil 4 already exists in VR. And it's a great version of it. For remake, am I going to be forward out at that point?
Yeah.
A new Dark Pictures, yep, I really enjoy those games, but it's not a system seller for me. Horizon is also not a system seller for me. I'm very ambivalent about the Horizon franchise. And so I guess none of this is really speaking to me. But like I said, I have yet to have that come to Jesus moment with VR. I've played a lot. I got to do the Vive underwater demo like years ago at a Gamescom, and I was like, oh wow, this is incredible. Like, I'm having the best time. And so for those experiences, I really enjoy them. But when it comes to actually like choosing to play a game, because for me, like, the barrier of entry is not just in paying for the headset and all that. It's, actively putting the headset on, making sure that everything is lined up properly, making sure there is space in my living room for it, exhaustion from playing for too long. And so for me, it's just like, it'd have to be a really good game.
Yeah,
and
the justifications that you need to make like pile up quickly with VR in a way that it doesn't for other stuff, right?
Yeah, and like I Beat Saber, I have this can be my exercise for the day, or I have Alex downloaded and I'm like, okay, this is 10 out of 10 game of the year, GameSpot.com. I guess I should try this one. But the rest of him, I just don't see it yet. And but it's also like, you can't really conflate, because this is PlayStation's move into VR, but you see what's happening over on Facebook, and you see all that kind of trouble, and obviously that's due to their push into the metaverse. But the VR segment of Meta is suffering quite a bit too. So it's like, I don't see where this is going, but this isn't for me.
Yeah, I think that when we were discussing the price previously, we would say there's going to be a certain number of PlayStation fans who will show up for this no matter what. And I definitely saw that this morning. A lot of those fans already pre-ordered. You can pre-order now, by the way. Yeah. I don't know if a lot of people in our chat have rushed to do so, but I did see people on Twitter who were in that PlayStation ecosystem say, no, this is day one for me. No doubt. I already put up my money for this. I think that was always going to be the easy sell, and the question was going to be long-term support, long-term enthusiasm that could then sort of entice that second wave of people to come in. I don't see a strong future for that looking at this release list right now. Now, the thing's coming out in February. They could make other announcements. It just feels like the gap here is not necessarily that Sony doesn't want to go out and find the games. It just feels like maybe the developers aren't out there actually making the games for Sony to go make deals with, like they did for PSVR. There was a lot of opportunity for that with PSVR. This time around, doesn't feel like that's the case. And there are just a lot of things working against it. I mean, obviously the price, but, saying your PSVR games won't work. Now, of course, there have been a handful of games that have been confirmed to get these free upgrades. That will be something of a help. But then, that only takes you so far. Backward compatibility only takes you so far. You do need that something new and special and shiny, especially at a point where VR's novelty has worn off a little bit. And people are, okay, yeah, I played the gallery shooters, and I've played the scary ride game, like a Dark Pictures game before.
Oh, yeah.
And so, what's next? And there is no real answer for that here. From Sony, and I get the sense that maybe there never will be, and maybe that's wrong. That could totally be wrong, but that's my sense right now, and that's the kind of thing that can poison something like the PSVR2 pretty quickly. I think that the PSVR, at least we know, worked somewhat. I had some issues with it. A lot of people though found it just fine and very comfortable. So I don't think this is going to be an echo of what happened with the Kinect 2 on the Xbox. But I think it could follow a similar trajectory where The first one did really well, and the second one comes out and sort of says, well, we're going to do the same thing but better. And now there's less support from developers, even though it seems like there should be more. And now what? Actually, now what? And there's no answer to that. Now what? It just basically is going to fizzle out. And again, I could be wrong. I just don't see how right now.
Yeah, it's also weird the way they, not weird, but like, you'd expect if you're opening your pre-orders or whatever, or, making this announcement, you would have something more like a PlayStation Safe Play. And maybe this is just, I'm trying to see like the silver lining here. Maybe
Absolutely,
this is just
please.
like the announcement, so people they get the idea, they get that figure in their head, and then later on there will be a showcase with more games. Yes, they've obviously announced 11 today, but if they announce like maybe something a little bigger, they're holding in their back pocket for when they're basically separating out the news of the money. This is how much money you got to spend with, oh, okay, once that dust is settled, it's like, here's all the games I can play, and then maybe that's when there'll be something more exciting.
Yeah, and that's, they even kind of, listen, of course, your marketing thing, you lead with your best foot forward, but even the tweet was like, hey, it's coming February 22nd.
Yeah.
You can pre-order it now.
Hey.
And then nothing about the price in the tweet. It's like, oh, okay, let's go actually open this blog post. Let's take a look. And it was there. But they're not, obviously they know that's a sticking point, but this technology is very good in terms of just raw specifications, OLED screens, the really high resolution, high refresh rate. I'm sure there's a ton of mechanisms in there to make sure it's more comfortable than ever. Inside out tracking, so it's tracking your room and all that stuff. It's basically combining the tracking features of a Quest with the internals of the Valve Index, which costs $1,000 or $900 depending on when you get it. And so only $550. That's pretty good, but it's just for a console. It costs more than the console. It's going to be a tough sell, and the games aren't helping.
And it's wired.
And there's a wire, which is like it's nice. It's down to one wire. But I've played the wireless one, and it's pretty good. And
it's pretty great. And
it's like I might be at a place with VR where I'm ready to make that sacrifice to get. It's wired, unlike the Quest VR, which is wireless, and it's also only works with a closed ecosystem, unlike the slightly more expensive headsets. And so, man, if I could justify this if I could plug it into a PC. And I'll use it with my PlayStation, but then also let me use it with PC and Steam VR so I can mess around with all the weird stuff people put on the internet for VR, which is a really still a pretty vibrant space. But doesn't seem like they're going to do that. They have not said anything about that yet, and who knows if there will be like community support to hack that sort of thing to happen. We'll have to wait and see. But until they,
there'll always be someone hacking it.
Yes, that's the hope. I think that you're right in terms of, we might get another chance for them to do a showcase, and who knows? All this stuff we're saying could be completely wrong because there is like 3 or 4 secret games they haven't talked about that are really their big launch games.
E.T.
Asobi, Team Asobi has, or Asobo, I can't remember now, I'm mixing them up. Asobi, I think, hasn't shown their new Astro game. So... yeah, let's get that. Let's make that happen, and then we'll see. Then I'll fully be ready to lay down my verdict about whether or not I'm going to get this, early or not. Yeah. All right, let's move along. But staying in the same general realm, Apple is reportedly hiring game devs for its AR/VR push. This comes from MobileGamer.biz, which reported that Playdeo's co-founders Jack Scholes and Timo Arnal are now employed by Apple, essentially closing that studio down, closing down Playdeo. Playdeo apparently is still a going concern in some way, but it doesn't actually have any current employees, which is weird. Playdeo was most notable for Avo, an iOS game in which players direct a sentient avocado through a series of real-world environments by drawing lines for it to follow. The game has received mainly positive reviews on the App Store with an average rating of 4.3 across 1,600 reviews. Scholes and Arnal are now likely working on mixed reality projects for Apple. The report also notes that Apple has previously hired Avo's design lead, Jonathan Topf, in 2019. This is, following up long-running reports about the state of VR investment at Apple. In 2021, Bloomberg reported that Apple has its own high-end VR headset that it is researching, developing, and trying to prepare as a product that could release as soon as this year. Clearly, that's not happening now. But it doesn't sound like they've abandoned the project either. They are continuing to ramp up by hiring people to work on this. Everything we just talked about with PSVR2 for me applies maybe even more to Apple, where at least in terms of gaming, I think maybe Apple can make a VR cool and mixed reality cool for a wider audience and for a wider set of applications. In terms of the gaming support, yes.
Minions everywhere.
Yes, I want to be able to put skins on reality. And so let me buy a minion skin pack. So when I'm doing the show with Lucy, I can finally see you the way God intended as a minion.
As a minion.
But I don't know. What do you think? Is there any excitement inside of you for Apple and VR / mixed reality?
No, I don't know.
Same.
I honestly, like, this is the first I've heard of it. It just seems like a very weird thing for Apple to get into. I don't know. I get that, like, diversifying revenue streams and everything, but do you remember, who was it? Was it Google, where you could just put they would give you the bit of cardboard?
Yes, Google had Cardboard VR, which you could just order for free from one of their websites. I did it. You put it in there, and there was like this, like an NFC button or something you could do, or no, you basically had to like hover the center cursor over things to interact with it. It was weird. And then Samsung had a plastic shell you could put your phone in, and apparently the word is that people would do that once and would never ever do it again because they just didn't like having their phone taken away and used for this other exclusive viewing experience. So that stuff never worked. I think if Apple does this, it will probably be its own standalone Oculus Quest style headset. But
I mean, it'd be cool. I'm just still waiting for that killer app. Like, unless you want to do something where it's more in line with like Google Glass RIP, where it is a wearable where you kind of can get that mixed reality. I mean, whatever happened to Microsoft's
HoloLens? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like that was cool.
You know,
like,
I think it's an enterprise.
HoloLens is cool as shit.
I think it's an enterprise is what it is. I think that they actually have begun selling to businesses to work in, I don't know, maybe medicine or something like that. But
that was the use case for HoloLens. Like, it was for a lot of it was, I mean, because did you know the Kinect is one of the highest selling peripherals of all time because of its use in education?
Yes, yeah, and that's I think they saw the same potential for HoloLens, which is basically a Kinect that you wear on your face. That's what it basically is, just the third gen tech of Kinect that you wear on your face, and then also has the screens, of course, that you can see through. But yeah, like there's been a lot of false starts with this sort of thing, at least in terms of consumer facing, gamer facing outreach. And I think Apple's is sort of doomed to the same realm. Although, you know, again, if they come out and they make it cool, who knows? It could be. I mean, could sell 1 billion.
That's the thing. Like, we're approaching this as gamers, and so obviously when it comes to Oculus, when it comes to Vive, when it comes to Index and PSVR2, that's the line that we're approaching it from, right? But like, the use case for Apple making a VR AR headset could be so much more. And if it is something that where it's like what HoloLens originally set out to do, like beaming Skype up onto the wall, RIP Skype, I guess it would be Zoom now. You know, that would be really cool. And so if I'm a little down on it, it's because I'm approaching it because I don't see a killer app games wise. If this is going to revolutionize the way I use another one of the most used apps on my phone, like, good for them. I would be excited about it, but I think I still need some convincing. Skype is not dead. Hit buttons. It's just, you know, Zoom has like massively overtaken it in the corporate world.
Absolutely.
And even Microsoft doesn't support it as much. Well, it doesn't push it as much as Teams.
Yeah. Which is a shame because Skype's got that the support for having separate video feeds when you use it, and you can hook it up to OBS, but it's just the voice protocols are still pretty outdated compared to even like Discord, things like that.
Is VR porn a thing, Matty?
Oh, honey.
Oh, sweet child, sweet innocent child.
Oh, you innocent little baby.
It's massive.
Yeah,
they had an E3 one year. They had it on the show floor at E3.
Here, go to Reddit go to r/adult VR games. There you go. Get started right there and have fun. Knock yourself out, kiddo. All right, let's keep going. Microsoft loses a lot of money on every console sold. This comes from an old buddy of mine, Jordan Novet, over at CNBC. I used to work with Jordan. He writes that today Spencer said Microsoft gives people a choice in how much they'd like to spend if they want consoles. The company offers the $500 Xbox Series X and the less powerful $300 Xbox Series S. Microsoft subsidizes the cost to the tune of $100 to $200 per console, with the expectation that it will make the money back on consoles on sales of accessories and storefront purchases. He said, "It's up to gamers if they'd like to pay $10 or $15 per month for Game Pass subscriptions. They can also buy games outright or play certain games for free." This is normal. Historically, this is normal. But this is a thing where both Nintendo and Sony have tried to get away from this. Nintendo has gotten away from it. Sony has been on the bubble of trying to say, oh, the PS5 is profitable whenever we sell PS5. I'm sure that's changed actually in the last few months as supply chains have been weird and so many of the costs have gone up. Like the cost
they raised the price.
And they raised the price specifically because of all these things. Currency exchanges and the cost of cardboard boxes has shot up because they're hard to come by right now. So they were like,
which is amazing because they are the flimsiest cardboard boxes I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's when we first got the PS5 and I opened it up, and I'm like, oh man, this was like cost saving 101 here is them trying to.
It's meant to be like completely biodegradable or whatever.
Yeah.
That's why.
But that's totally greenwashing though. They're just saying like, oh, it's like when you go to a hotel and they're like, hey, help save the planet by reusing your towels so we don't use. It's like, no, you're just trying to save the pennies on washing the towels every day. Which I get that, but it's like that really is about saving money. But packaging costs like $30 alone, and I bet the Xbox packaging is even like probably a little bit more expensive than that because it was
fancier.
It's fancy, yeah, $35-$40 just for the boxes, not storing these things, not shipping these things. Which shipping, of course, got really expensive several times throughout the pandemic. So $100 to $200 per console subsidized, and that's probably to deliver the console to consumers. So that does include shipping and warehouses and all those other things. So that makes sense, and it is normal, but still, it seems like a pretty big number, right?
It really does, and I guess this is where the success of Game Pass is really gonna shine and kind of come in and help make up that shortfall. And I mean, yeah, it also kind of makes sense as to why Xbox is pushing like control lab or whatever they call it so much. Like they push that a lot, and they push the special one-off controllers, the controllers you can make for yourself. I maintain that like the Elite Series 2 is one of my favorite controllers, and yeah, it makes sense that you pay a lot of money for that one. But yeah, that checks out, I think. And also, yeah, the move on a PC as well. They don't necessarily have to pay or like have the shortfall there. So.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's
all checks out.
You're right. Like when you see them really pushing these things that involve controllers and headsets, those are high margin items. They make a lot of profit off those things because they're very cheap to make. And so yeah, these companies trying to make up a lot of difference there. And the Elite Series 2, I bet, has the highest profit margin of them all. Yeah. And you get why they want to push that and get people in the control lab and all those things. That makes a lot of sense. All right. Everywhere. This is a confusing headline, everybody, so just stay with me. Everywhere developer Build a Rocket Boy is opening a Montpellier studio. Montpellier? Did I get that? I think I'm just going to try to say it that way. So this is Build a Rocket Boy is the studio. Everywhere is the name of the game. This comes from Chris Scullion at VGC. Build a Rocket Boy, the studio helmed by former Grand Theft Auto producer Leslie Benzies, has announced its plan to open a new studio in France. The Montpellier studio will assist in development on Everywhere, the studio's ambitious first game, which is planned for release in 2023. The team is going to help them with assets and all those other things. I brought this story here, Lucy, because it's a reminder to me that investment and development has changed a lot. 5 years ago, 10 years ago for sure, we would not have heard of a brand new studio that has not released a game yet, regardless of the pedigree of the person responsible for it, being able to begin development on a massively ambitious game that probably employing 200 people, and then also opening a new studio to work on that game before it actually came out. There is so much investment in game development right now that people like Leslie Benzies can go out and start their own project, and there's enough cash to fund it, even if it is this massively ambitious thing. So things have just changed, right?
What kind of investment? Is this the NFT thing, or the thing that looks suspiciously like an NFT thingy?
It's the thing that where they have said they have hired a researcher to look into the possibility of doing NFTs. So
a multi-world game experience that blurs the line between reality and the digital world.
Yeah. And, some of the Zolotl in chat says, isn't this what Star Citizen has done? That's a little bit different because Star Citizen is for lack of a better word, a grift on a bunch of people who like a bunch of community people that were like, oh, I believe in this game. I don't think Build a Rocket Boy has done any crowdsourcing.
No, according to the LinkedIn, funding via Crunchbase Series C, one total investor. That can't be right.
I mean, it's and Leslie Benzies has a lot of money too. I wonder if he's put some of his own in there. He's the one that was suing Rockstar to get his bonus payment for working on Grand Theft Auto 5 and Grand Theft Auto Online specifically. Yeah. Which the story goes, Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming along. What are the brothers' names? The Hauser brothers. Sam
and Dan.
Yes, the Hauser brothers, Sam and Dan, were working on the main story, the single player, and they basically said, Leslie, if you figure out the online, it's a mess. Yeah. He did figure it out, got it up and running, and now that's their entire business. So he's like, pay me my money that you promised for getting this figured out. And that was a big payment. So maybe he could be funding this himself. But regardless, I think that's also along these same lines. Like, this is not the only studio that is founded by a former big shot at another, like the EA's former the guy that founded DICE. He was then one of the big guys at EA, and then he left EA. I'm just not gonna be able to remember his name.
Adam.
Something along those lines. But either he's got like a studio of 250 people that are working on 2 games that neither of them come out, and they keep hiring more and expanding more. And it's like, okay, this is just a new way of doing things. And I think it's also a sign that like gaming is pretty healthy overall. Like, I don't know if that shows up necessarily in the games all the time, but people get worried about consolidation, and people worry about one company owning everything. But companies don't make games, so even when one company buys another company, the people who actually do the work can leave, take a lot of the money they've earned from these buyouts, go start new companies, and now those companies are hitting the ground running in a way they never have before. So there's some promising stuff in that the acquisition ecosystem is still funding a pretty healthy gaming market overall. Sackboy, A Big Adventure, has proven very unpopular on PC. This comes from Liam Croft at Push Square. After the PC port of Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection set the record for the lowest player count of any Sony game at launch, Sackboy, A Big Adventure has come along and beat it by an alarming margin. Across its first weekend on sale, the highest number of players it had at any one time was just 610. Compare this to the 10,851 peak that the Nathan Drake remasters recorded, and it's immediately clear how unpopular Sackboy has proven on PC. Now, that's Liam Croft's editorializing there. I don't know what our expectations were for Sackboy, but clearly
I didn't even know it was coming.
Yeah, I think part of that is people didn't know, and so it's like kind of came out of nowhere for a little bit. It's also not a game that people were clamoring to have on PC like Spider-Man or God of War. Both of those had over 60,000 concurrents at their peak when they launched. All that said, I don't know. I kind of worried because so here's the games that Sony's put on PC so far: God of War, Marvel Spider-Man Remastered, Horizon Zero Dawn, Days Gone, Uncharted Legacy of Thieves Collection, and now Sackboy: A Big Adventure. And the order I just read it in is the order of the popularity in terms of concurrence on launch day. Now, it's not the only way we measure things. It's just the inefficient tool that we have. And it's probably a fair metric for sorting these from how popular they were on PC, maybe with the exception of Spider-Man might outsell God of War over time. Either way, though, of those games, Sackboy is maybe my second most, like the one I want to play the second most, other than Spider-Man. I like that game a lot. And I think if I see these numbers, and if I'm Sony, I don't know if I invest in those kinds of games going forward. Maybe I have to leave that to Nintendo. Maybe my audience just isn't showing up for these things. Now, we don't know how it's sold on PlayStation, but I think we can also assume probably not as well as any of these other ones. And Sony wants the big hits. If it needs the big hits to help fund all these other big things that it's doing. So I just worry that those kinds of games might not be coming out of companies like Sony going forward. But maybe I'm reading into it too much.
I think maybe. I hope you're reading into it too much.
I hope so, too.
I mean, Sackboy, Little Big Planet, has been a bit of a tentpole franchise, and Sackboy is one, and Sackgirl are, two PlayStation mascots. Maybe their heyday was more the 2014 kind of era, PS3 into PS4, but I don't think they would cut them off completely. Media Molecule is a very important studio, and now Sumo is not a PlayStation studio, but Sumo does a lot of work for them and has taken this game. I don't think they would cut it off completely because, I don't know.
They're probably inexpensive to make compared to an Uncharted, right?
Well, not to play portfolio bingo or anything, but it is important to have kids games, get them in young and keep them around in that ecosystem. But no, I don't think PC is the move for it.
Maybe.
I never heard of it. There's been very little promotion for this at all. It just doesn't speak to me as a PC game. I'm not going to boot up my PC and go, oh, hell yeah, can't wait to play Sackboy. No, I want to play that on the couch with a friend of mine or whatever.
Yeah, and, we could, people in chat pointed out, and I agree, seems like a good fit for Steam Deck. Steam Deck, while very popular and everyone I know has one, we are a different audience for now. I think the Steam Deck has a very high ceiling over time. I think it's going to be another pillar for PC gaming going forward. Yeah. Right now, being a good Steam Deck game is only going to get you so far. And then, me personally, I only have one DualSense, and I want to buy another one, but they're expensive, and I've kind of been putting it off. And then I saw Sackboy, and my kids got into Sackboy in the last couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, maybe I should get another DualSense so we can play together. It is a very good multiplayer third-person platformer game. It's one of the better ones, because it doesn't even seem as quite as frustrating as Super Mario 3D World can be. But regardless of all that, when I hear this, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll play on the PC. So where I have a bunch of controllers already set up, it's like, well, even then, it's like, okay, it's not super exciting. This is a game that's been out for a while and all these other things. It's just easy to be like, oh yeah, I will do this. Oh, that's a great way to experience that game. I already have all the setup for it. I don't think everyone is in that situation, and even if they were, it's an easy game to overlook. It feels like it doesn't feel on the Jeff Bakalar scale important, which I think is a shame, but fair enough.
Yeah, no.
Following a record launch, EA claims FIFA 23 sales are up 10% on last year's game. This comes from Tom Ivan at VGC. Electric Arts has said that FIFA 23 has built on a record opening week with strong sales and FIFA Ultimate Team engagement. The publisher recently claimed FIFA 23 had enjoyed a record-breaking launch for the franchise in terms of its first week player numbers, which is when it attracted over 10.3 million players, which was up over the 9.1 million from the previous FIFA. EA provided an update on the game's performance as part of its second quarter earnings results on Tuesday. Based on the first 4 weeks since launch, the publisher said FIFA 23 sales are up 10% and Ultimate Team players are up 6% on the comparable period for FIFA 22. I think...
PES that shit. Did PES even come out?
Well, I mean, the PES turned into
eFootball.
eFootball, right? Yeah, which is had a resurgence, but I don't think it's had one that is enough to counter what's happening here. But even so, I think we're seeing this across the board for these games. Call of Duty up, FIFA up. So we were in a period where everything's going to be comparing down from the pandemic years, from the full-on pandemic years, of course, everybody. But and so people are going back outside, so there's going to be less time for these kinds of games. Well, that didn't last very long. People are already coming back to their Call of Duty and FIFA. And a big part of that probably is a lot of people bought consoles during the pandemic, and maybe they're not showing up for everything, but when there's a new Call of Duty, a new FIFA, they already have the hardware, so another $60, $70 sale for a game isn't asking that much. So it's the long-term effects of that surge, I guess, being seen in these engagement numbers. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, so when I was working from the UK office, my only real exposure to FIFA would be, the lads at lunchtime. And so I have not, it's just not, I've not paid attention to it for the past couple of years beyond the stuff that they've lost the license to call it FIFA. And now it's going to be what? EA Football?
EAFC, EA Football Club. Hey, we'll get used to it.
Yeah. Rolls off the tongue.
Yeah. Also, Lads at Lunchtime is my favorite Mighty Mighty Bosstones record.
I was absolutely shit at it as well. They would get me to play, and I'd be like, I don't know what this means. What? Yeah. Anyway, but no, it's not a surprise that it's. I think it's a surprise at how much, like a 10% up, is quite a lot. But I think if you put it in the context of 2020, no one was going out. 2021, going out a little bit. 2022. Yeah. Going out equilibrium, it appears. People are kind of used to
equilibrium
it,
is where I think we've reached it, and at least as we like the seasonal equilibrium. Who knows? Maybe next summer things will go buck wild again. But I think people are like settling in and be like, yeah, no, I'm happy to come back home and start playing video games again. I had a good summer, but let's be real about this. So EA has high hopes for Koei Tecmo's incredible, that's a quote, monster hunting game from that is called Wild Hearts. This is another one from Tom Ivan. Electronic Arts CEO Andrew Wilson has said he has high hopes for upcoming monster game Wild Hearts. Set to be published through the EA Originals label, Wild Hearts is being developed by Omega Force, a division of Koei Tecmo best known for the Dynasty Warrior games and its various spin-offs. It is set in a fantasy feudal Japan, where players battle against giant nature-infused beasts called kimono with the help of karakuri, sophisticated mechanisms crafted from a lost ancient technology. It started with what we felt like was a pretty small idea for us internally, and every time we saw the product, we were wowed and mesmerized by what they were doing. And that's from Wilson. He went on to say, the Monster Hunter genre is a relatively new genre. It exploded. It is ripe for innovation and creativity and expansion. And what we see the team doing is all of the things the community is asking for in the genre. And the response so far has been really, really strong. And so I don't want to get over our skis on this one, but I would tell you I saw it and I think it's incredible. The community saw it and they think it's incredible. So, yeah, I mean, of course they believe in this, but it's a weird project. Just like hearing about EA publishing a Konami Tecmo Monster Hunter game from the team that makes Dynasty Warriors. It's just a weird set of phrases all clammed together. And the only real justification...
It's a new genre. Don't forget. This 20-year-old genre is brand new.
Yes, we can get to that. But it's like the only way I think this stuff happens is if people saw the game and they do think it looks really good. If they have a lot of hope in it. Because otherwise, this is an easy one to cancel, I think. But I'm going to give Wilson a pass on the new genre thing. I think up until the last... and maybe up until like 5-10 years ago, it was just Monster Hunter, the game. And then I think people realized in the last decade, oh, wait, this can be a genre of its own. And there's been other games, obviously, and games that go past 10 years ago, I think, for like the PS3 and things like that were in this genre. But even still, people have really started thinking about it in a genre relatively recently. But I don't know. I think it's cool that they're trying this for the most part. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's really cool. It's one that, like, okay, so this is my little weird thing, but never have a game name that can rhyme with, like, Radical Heights, Radical Shites.
So
Gotham Knights, Gotham Shites, Wild Hearts, Wild Shots. I don't want it to fall into that.
I was gonna go
pitfall.
farts, but Sharts is even that's.
I don't want it to fall into that pitfall. I want it to be good. I want my my hypothesis to be proven wrong. Mm-hmm. But no, I think it should be good. But the thing that excites me the most is that, like, EA Originals, they are still keeping up with that label because they've published some really cool and interesting things.
Yes. Successful things too. It Takes Two, massively successful. Yeah. Sold over 6-7 million copies at this point. That's a big number.
Coming to Switch, and you've got stuff like what was the game from Joe Mai? I forget what it was called, but it was very, very sweet, very, like, sad, but very cute. And then you've got, like, the thing with Yanni and...
right. I'm trying to remember the other one now. Yarny's the one, the Unraveled. Unravel's the one. And then what was the other one? You're going
to annoy me if I don't remember.
Real quick, when you get a chance, could you read the chat from Hela Delos in the Giant Bomb chat? Where he
Sea of Solitude.
Oh, Sea of Solitude.
Oh, my God.
There you go. So you got to watch out for rhymes across the board there.
You got to watch out for rhymes when you are naming things. Like art, bot, dot, eot, we're good.
Ayla Delos rhymes something with Monster Hunter if you want to try to put two and two together yourself. They're not the only ones doing a big Monster Hunter style game. Microsoft and a certain Affinity are also working on one. So this genre could get pretty busy pretty quickly. I wonder... if one of them stands out by being free to play. Not that would be the first time we've seen that. There was I'm not going to be able to remember the name of that game that did that, but there was a free to play Monster Hunter in the last couple of years, and it did pretty well. All things considered. But in the end, Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter Rising, they come along and they just dominate this space, and of course they do. Of course they do.
Yeah.
Finally, we talked a little bit about this on the Bombcast yesterday. There was a bigger story here about Embracer shutting down the mobile studio it acquired from Square Enix Montreal, which turned into Anoma. And then just 3 weeks later, after that name change, they closed it down. We talked about that on the Bombcast. So weird.
What the fuck was that?
Yeah.
Anoma.
It was Square Enix Montreal, the studio that made Hitman Go and Lara Croft Go, things like that.
Yeah.
But there was an update, and this all came from Jason Schreier. He posted this to his Bloomberg terminal as well as to Twitter, and I just wanted to re-up people here. He mentioned that, and we talked about this. I mean, it was an episode with Patrick Klepek where we actually went over these things, where they were working on a Stranger Things inspired Kids on Bikes game, and Schreier says that's been canceled. And that was always the vibe I was getting, because the build-up since the Embracer acquisition was that they are beginning to come up with ideas for the new Deus Ex at Eidos Montreal instead, and they want to start working on that because they believe they can do what Cyberpunk couldn't. That's what we said previously. That is one of the games they have in development. They also have a new IP that was recently rescoped, according to Schreier, and then a co-dev partnership with Xbox that includes Fable. And it's just, he says including Fable. Like I say, that's not the only thing they're working on. But this is
Perfect Dark.
Perfect Dark is Crystal Dynamics is already working on that. So the other Embracer group, the Square Enix acquisition, is already working on Perfect Dark. So it's maybe honestly, this team could be contributing to that as well. There's no reason they couldn't. And but it's just it's a bit strange. But also kind of, it's neat that this team that worked on a game I really like, Guardians of the Galaxy, and obviously they have a storied history. They are finding work. They're getting back to work on Deus Ex. They have another new thing coming, and they're going to be contributing to some of the biggest games coming from Xbox. The fact that Xbox is working with Crystal Dynamics on Perfect Dark and Eidos Montreal and Fable, do you think they were in talks for this acquisition and they just had to say no because of the Activision merger?
I don't know. Maybe it'll be an interesting one. I mean, oh God, it's been. Oh, sorry. I was also just looking up.
No, please.
Yeah. So the lead narrative, Mary DeMal, has actually left.
Yeah. Where did she go?
She's gone to Mass Effect.
Yes, that's right.
Senior narrative director on Mass Effect, which is a huge fucking win.
Yes, that is.
She's amazing.
She rules. That game rules.
Game's a team.
Yes.
But
but
proven track record there.
Yes.
But anyway, co-dev partnerships is kind of weird, especially with as of right now, no real clear clarification on why necessarily certain teams are being brought on, or how they're being brought on, or how that would even work with regards to rights holders. But I guess if the Square Enix Montreal team, right, first of all, you already have a big studio out there. You've got Eidos. What was the last game they shipped? Was it Hitman Go? Or Lara Croft Go? Or Deus Ex? They did do Deus Ex Go.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to, I don't remember. I don't know what the next one or the last one is. That sounds possible, but I just don't know.
And that's a big team to be sat around not doing anything.
Yeah, they also, they explicitly said, Embracer, we make PC and console games. We're not going to make mobile games. So you could see
but also mobile games with no free to play. And to be commended, because those games were amazing, but no...
Yeah, and they were a tough sell, right? They were games as a product, which was a non-starter on mobile. You could see maybe a way to transfer some of that experience to make maybe strategy games for PC and console. But I'll say those developers are in Montreal, and if there's one place where developers are going to land on their feet 100%, it is Montreal. There is
Montreal right now.
Yeah,
staffing is the heart. We were just up there for Batman and. Batman is dead. I'm sorry. Gotham. And I've got friends who are devs up in Montreal, and they are it's just hard to keep people because everyone just keeps getting poached. There's always something bigger and better. And it's
that's exactly the case. So honestly, they're going to probably land on their feet and probably make more money wherever they go. It's I'm not too worried. Although, of course, anytime you lose your job, it's terrible and frustrating. And
and I hope most of them have just gone over to Eidos.
Exactly. Yes, that would be ideal, which is right there. Someone in chat says they should have sold that studio to Netflix, and yeah, that would have been a good fit. You could take that Go formula even and apply that to a bunch of stuff of the IP that is on Netflix. That could have worked.
Kids on bikes.
Yeah, and kids on bike. I like that. I like a kids on bikes movie, game, whatever. I would have liked to see that, but oh well. All right, let's get to the poll. I'm going to bring that up. On Monday, I asked, did you come to Twitter for video game news? And of course, I asked this in part because of Nibel leaving. 85.7% of the people following me, so I guess this makes some sense, said yes, and 14.3% said no. I think still that there is a large portion of the overall gaming community that engages and gets their news from Twitter. Like, it's a very easy way to be like, oh, even if it's like someone posting a thread to Reset Era, that stuff gets tweeted to Twitter as well, and it's just easy to keep up that way. So not too surprising about this. It's just a shame that something that creates so much value for Twitter can't create value for the people actually responsible for that value in the first place. Whatever. Okay, let's ask the new poll, which you said at the top, and I completely agree we should ask this. Are you getting a PlayStation VR2 for $550? Game Mess Mornings. And in the meantime, Lucy, you got anything happening this week you want to talk about?
What am I working on this week? I'm working on a bunch of behind the scenes. I'm doing a lot of 2023 planning at the moment. I'll be on GameSpot after dark. I'm gonna be on Voicemail Dump Truck tomorrow as well.
Yes.
Which will be very fun. Haven't been on in a while. And then it is Extra Life this weekend, my dudes. It's happening. We're in the planning stage. Shout out to Rory, by the way. Rory is just spearheading the whole thing, making sure we've got everything sorted and working with Jan and John Luke and everyone. But he's really been, taking the reins on it.
He's been herding cats. He's been herding us cats.
He has been herding some cats.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, very excited. It's also Day of the Devs. So Tam and I are going to go down on Saturday to check that out. But we're also going to be Extra Life in the morning, pop over to Day of the Devs for a little bit, then come back for the evening stretch. So it's going to be a fun one.
I'll be watching y'all, and then I'll be picking it up on Sunday night / Monday morning, and we're gonna go all night into Game S mornings on Monday, everybody. So
oh my gosh,
look out for that. It's gonna be a wild one. All right. In the meantime, let's see here. Anything else happening? I'm gonna be on Arcade Pit at 1 p.m. today. It's gonna be the Beef and Cheddar Boys versus Big Sexy's Ravioli, which is the team of Dan Reichert and Matthew from Botchamania. So
Matthew, who is a Geordie, by the way, who comes from the same place in the UK that I'm from. And when I was watching the last time he was on, I was like, there are dozens of us. We are taking over.
Now, when you watched, did you know immediately because of the accent? I'm not sure how this works.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, no. He has a very, that is what my real voice sounds like.
Oh, okay. Fantastic.
Yeah. So if I'm home, that's what I sound like.
Incredible.
Hang on. Can you understand it? Because he's got a pretty strong accent.
Can I understand what he's saying? For the most part, yes. Yeah, absolutely. But it's also, my brain is also doing the thing where it's I could tell that this is an accent from a certain part of the country and I'm trying to place it. So it's a little bit bewildering at times. And but yes, for the most part, I can understand it. I can't try to understand individual words. I have to wait for the whole thing to be said and get the context, of course.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah, because we mispronounce pretty much every vowel, which I'm not sure who agreed on that, but yeah, it's people used to say I sounded Irish, and I was like, I see it, but no.
Yeah, well, that's Americans tell you that. We just don't know. We don't know accent. Yeah. We have a lot of accents in America, but it's a big sections of the country that have those accents, and then there's Boston. But
is it mass holes? That's what they say in Massachusetts.
Well, listen, yeah, I just call them weird racists, but yes, I'm starting to beef with Boston. But when in the UK, it's every 10 feet you walk, there's a new place that has a whole really dialect of its own. Yeah, fair enough. Let's wrap this thing up. Thank you everybody for watching. You're the best audience in gaming. Lucy, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate it. Absolutely.
Of course. I'll see you next week.
Yes, absolutely. Until then, everyone, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.